Welcome to the channel. Today, we're exploring some unbelievable story. Stay tuned and let's dive in. Before things started to collapse, Lucas seemed to be having a beautiful life. He had a solid job, a loving family, and the security that comes with being in his mid-30s. Each day had a consistent pattern: work, home, family time, and the odd date night with his wife, Emily. It seems that they had discovered the secret to managing duties and squeezing out moments of delight. At least that is what he thought. There were no obvious signals, no indications that something was festering under the surface, anything capable of shattering the foundation he believed to be rock solid. He should have known better. Lucas and Emily were not immune to the gradual deterioration that occurs in long-term relationships when neglect takes hold. Lucas had pushed himself into a huge project at work, one that promised to advance his career and provide financial stability for years to come. Late evenings at work and early mornings were regular, and he didn't pay any attention to the increasing gap between himself and his wife. In his opinion, this was just a brief phase, a necessary sacrifice that would pay dividends in the end. What he didn't realize was how the tiny things, missed meals, lost discussions, and unsaid loneliness were slowly destroying the relationship they'd created over the years. It was Saturday, and Lucas was seated at the kitchen table, looking at a bottle of Heineken. He had just gotten a six-pack, not enough to get drunk, but enough to calm his worries. He knew he needed to clear his mind for the talk that was quickly coming. Upstairs, he could hear Emily's music fade, indicating that she was almost done getting dressed. Normally, Saturday evenings were spent with her friends, allowing Lucas to remain late at work and complete his weekly chores. It had appeared like the ideal arrangement. Lucas managed his duties, Emily had time to unwind with her friends, and his parents cared for their baby Isabella. But while he sat there, the once ideal routine had become a cloak, concealing the underlying flaws in his marriage. His thoughts strayed back to his lunch with Samantha earlier that week, a talk that had completely altered his world. Thursday, Lucas pondered. I need to get out of the office more, or at least check if they'll deliver these delicious sandwiches. He had picked a table to monitor the entrance when he saw a familiar figure come in. She glanced around and he waved. She saw him and went over. Samantha, Emily's oldest and dearest friend, was 32 years old. She was also the only one married. She has the ability to put everyone at ease without being a pushover. He had to agree she was quite attractive: dark wavy hair, pale complexion, and wonderful legs. Her face was lovely, despite the fact that she had no apparent curves. Her husband, Daniel, loved her, and she continued to get plenty of male attention. As she sat across from him, he couldn't help but note how simple she made things seem. Thanks for meeting me, Lucas. I know work keeps you busy, so I appreciate you taking the time, she replied, scrutinizing his features. No problem, Samantha, Lucas said, but he had to add, I feel a little weird meeting without Emily. I don't usually have lunch with pretty women who aren't my wife, but you said it was about her, so I'm all ears. Planning a surprise for her birthday next month. Lucas was surprised by Samantha's expression of melancholy when he mentioned Emily's birthday. What's going on? Lucas inquired. I've seen how much you and Emily care for each other, and that's why I'm coming to you. This might ruin my friendship with her, but if it saves your marriage, I'm okay with that. There's no easy way to say this, but Emily's been seeing someone for the past 4 months. Lucas was astonished. He assumed it had to be a prank and told Samantha as much. I'm really sorry, Lucas, but it's not a joke. About 3 months ago, after you took on this new project, Emily was in a bad place at work, grumpy and quiet. After a few martinis, she opened up about feeling abandoned. She said she missed you and felt like you two were becoming just another middle-aged couple letting life pass you by. At that time, the server came by to take Samantha's order. She requested a Cobb salad and iced tea with lemon. Lucas, still trying to digest what he had just heard, was shocked that Emily would sneak around after 9 years together. He would have bet his life that Emily would have let him know if she was unhappy. They had always been open and honest, even when it was difficult. He glanced at Samantha and asked the one question for which he required a quick response. Has she slept with him? He murmured. Not that I know of, Samantha said. And I think I'd be able to tell. Hell, your wife's usually pretty open, which is why this behavior is so shocking. But Lucas, you should know that every woman I've spoken to has shared similar feelings, kind of like how you guys talk about being tied down. When Emily mentioned it, we all told her she's amazing, that you should pay more attention to her, and so on. Unfortunately, my sister was there that night, Samantha added. What does your sister have to do with anything? Lucas questioned, unable to contain his rage. Well, my sister is not the best influence, Samantha said. The server delivered her tea and raised an eyebrow at her remark. My parents were serial cheaters. I don't know who started it, but they were always trying to get back at each other. When I was 17, I asked why they stayed together, and they said it was because they loved each other. This affected my sister and me differently. I saw cheating as a relationship butcher, while my sister thought it was fine as long as you loved each other. I love her, but she's clueless about this stuff. Anyway, Samantha continued, my sister made a comment that if Emily wasn't getting romance at home, maybe she should look elsewhere. I told her she was wrong, but a few others in the group started talking about how to pick up a guy and keep it secret. At the time, Emily said she'd never cheat on you, but I think my sister planted a seed. Why do you think that? Lucas inquired, now that he wasn't certain Emily had slept with someone. He was absorbing more because the next week, Brandon Mitchell and his party arrived to the Red Moon Saloon, where we were drinking. Emily did not invite him, but she did say we'd be there to attempt line dancing. It was enjoyable, except for Ryan. Now Lucas had a name. Tell me about this Ryan guy, he demanded. Samantha smiled slightly at the tone in Lucas's voice, and she continued, Brandon Mitchell is the office flirt. He goes after any woman who shows even the slightest interest, and those who do find themselves on the receiving end of his attention. He doesn't care if they are married or even particularly attractive. He just loves the chase. Your wife shut him down early on, and he didn't push it until recently. Now he's chasing her, and instead of stopping it, she's running along with it. It's an open secret that if Ryan gets one more maltreatment complaint, he'll be fired. She could easily end it, but she hasn't. In fact, for the past couple of months, they've been regulars at the cafeteria, sitting together, whispering and giggling. I've tried talking to her about it, but she just gets defensive, insisting they are just friends and that Ryan listens to her and understands her problems. I asked if she would act the same way if you were sitting across the table, and she actually blushed. Then she got angry and said something like, you wouldn't even notice. After that, I decided to step back and keep an eye on things. They seemed to cool it off at work, and I thought it was over until 4 weeks ago. Samantha's lunch came at this moment, and she started eating as she waited for Lucas' reply. Lucas took a long gulp of lemonade, but it did not register at all. He felt empty within, and his eyes couldn't concentrate. How could Emily assume he didn't mind her flirting with another man? He had never been unduly jealous since he loved and trusted his wife, but now he wondered whether his distance was due to this job endeavor. Had always believed the payout would be worthwhile, but had he gone too far? He found himself pondering what had transpired 4 weeks before. Did he really want to know? They ate in quiet for approximately 5 minutes as Lucas processed what she had said. He was undoubtedly furious. There was no reasonable reason for her to be so near to another guy, yet he could almost see her reasoning. Perhaps if he had been more attentive, none of this would have occurred. Aside from not informing him about the flirtation, she hadn't exactly lied to him. Yes, there were lies of omission, but he was able to overcome them so far. He assumed they could discuss, and if she was truthful and agreed to stop dating Ryan, they could go on. So far, it didn't seem that any permanent harm had been done. Unless anything had transpired in the last 4 weeks. So what occurred 4 weeks ago? How awful is it? He inquired, feeling as if he was now standing on firmer footing. He could handle it. Samantha looked at him kindly. This is where it gets tough, Lucas. 3 weeks ago, we all went back to the Red Moon Saloon for line dancing. Ryan and his guys showed up, and we were all having a good time. Emily had been drinking more than usual. Ryan kept buying her drinks, and she got pretty tipsy. I went to the bathroom with her, and when she came out of the stall, she was holding her underwear and put them in her purse. I asked her what she was doing, and she said she wanted to feel free. She was drunk, so I just brushed it off and helped her back to our table. I started rounding up Jessica and Samantha to take Emily back to my place so she wouldn't go home too drunk, but then I noticed Emily and Ryan on the dance floor, bumping and grinding. Line dancing was over and the jukebox was playing. I saw her take her underwear out of her purse and put them in Ryan's pocket. As the song ended, unfortunately, so did everyone else. The whole bar erupted with catcalls and Ryan was grinning like a Cheshire cat. Then he kissed her, almost a full-on kiss, and one of his friends was filming it on his phone. I wanted so badly for her to push him away, but she didn't. She went along with it. "I'm so sorry, Lucas," Samantha paused as she observed his expression. Lucas' mouth had actually fallen. "Excuse me for a second," he said before rising up and leaving. Lucas shut the bathroom door and sprayed water all over his face. He held the sink fiercely, attempting to balance himself. He remembers that night. Emily normally arrived home about 11:30, but that night it was closer to 2:30. Samantha had phoned earlier to say Emily was staying at her house since she'd had too much to drink and that they'd call her a taxi once she sobered up. It had occurred before, and Lucas was always happy that Samantha and the children were responsible enough not to get a DUI. He had never been furious about it. In fact, he had always believed that being a bit intoxicated was part of the fun while out with friends. He had never imagined this. He also recalled what occurred the night Emily arrived home. He remembered being awakened by the warmth of Emily's kisses on his skin. It had taken him by surprise, and before he knew it, they were completely engaged in intense sex. "Oh my God, honey, that was amazing," he told her later. "I'm sorry it ended so quickly, but I'll make it up to you." She continued to chuckle, and the night turned out to be one of their greatest. However, those recollections were corrupted. Was she thinking about someone else at those moments? He poured more water on his face, attempting to rid himself of the notion. Damn, he thought. Was she thinking about him when we were having sex? He wiped his face before returning to the table. He noted Samantha's sympathetic expression but was unsure how to reply. His lunch remained undisturbed. "What else do I need to know, Samantha?" he said, his tone cold. "Honestly, Lucas, that's pretty much it. The last few girls' nights have been at Jessica's house with wine and lingerie parties. At work, Emily's been acting cold toward Ryan, even though he's still trying to get close to her. I thought it was over, but just yesterday, I saw them talking. They got quiet when I came around the corner, so I don't know what's going on. But I'm done. I figured you should know, and maybe you can do something since she's not listening to her if the waiter delivered the check, which Lucas snatched before Samantha could reach for it, taking out his credit card. I want to see them together in action and maybe put a stop to it, he told me. Emily told me you guys are going to the Red Moon Saloon this week, so this Saturday, when you all go, you'll show up and watch from a distance. He paused mid-sentence when he saw Samantha's shocked expression. What did I say wrong? He inquired, puzzled. Samantha, Megan has a doctor's appointment early Saturday morning, and Samantha's flying to Florida to visit her brother. If Emily's going out Saturday, it's not with us, Samantha said softly. She leaned across the table to take his hand. I'm really sorry, Lucas, she whispered quietly. I know it's pointless to ask if you're okay, but here's my home number. Call anytime if you need to talk to me or Daniel. Her husband was a marital counselor, so speaking with him may be beneficial. Lucas nodded slowly. Thank you for telling me, Samantha. I know it wasn't easy, but I think you're doing the right thing, being a good friend. I don't know what's going to happen next, but at least now I know what's going on and I can take some action. Thanks again. With that, he rose up, signed the measure, and left. Thursday. Today was a significant milestone in Lucas' endeavor. They had acquired pre-manufactured components from a Springfield startup, slashing 3 months off the timeframe and providing them at least a week's cushion despite logistical problems. With a few more calls, the project may be finished 3 months ahead of schedule, saving the military millions. The incentive would be as large as Lucas had planned, and his name on the project would get attention. He should have been overjoyed, but all he could think about was how much he hated coming home and facing what he had to. Head resolved to look into Emily's probable affair himself. He couldn't access her work email, but he assumed they wouldn't be dumb enough to use it since it was monitored by HR. He got into her Yahoo account and discovered nothing strange. She may have sent another email, but he wouldn't know until he checked his home computer. The difficulty was that Lucas was not technologically proficient. The thought of installing surveillance cameras or voice-activated microphones seemed appealing in principle, but he already had a strategy for addressing her. He just needed as much information as possible to determine if he should attempt to salvage or terminate his marriage. Emily had already picked up their daughter, Isabella, from his parents and persuaded him to pick up Chinese cuisine for supper. When he texted her to inquire what she wanted, she replied, "After 11 years together, 8 of those married, you should know what I like, babe." He couldn't help but poke fun. "I just wanted to make sure you're still happy with the way things are," he replied via text. Her response was quick, "You're right. Get me an extra egg roll." If Samantha hadn't delivered the bombshell yesterday, Lucas would have been overjoyed to be home an hour early and spend time with his wife and children. But as he looked at the clock, he remembered that before the project started, this time would have been regarded 2 hours late. He also realized he hadn't been home early on a Saturday in months. Add to it the tiredness and stress he'd been experiencing, and it was easy to see why Emily felt ignored. Still, it did not give her the authority to do what she was doing. Walking inside the main door, he observed Emily grabbing for a wine bottle. He stopped to appreciate her body. She was 32 years old and in the peak of her life. Her 57 frame has just enough curves to be attractive. Even through her baggy sweatpants, he could see the contour of her toned body. Her hair was pulled back into a ponytail, and when she turned and smiled at him, he couldn't help but feel very happy. Then he realized why he was so unhappy. "I'm so glad you're home, babe. How's work?" she said, going up to kiss him on the lips. "Pretty good. We had a major breakthrough on some supplies, so we're likely finishing at least a month ahead of schedule. Look, I know I've been distant because of this project, and I hate that I can't share the details since it's classified, but I want you to know you and Isabella are the most important things in my life, and I'll do everything I can to protect us," he said, staring at her. Did he perceive a trace of remorse or sorrow in her countenance, or was he imagining things? He cursed his inability to read people well. He was known as a straight shooter, speaking openly and expecting others to follow suit. His frank manner might be irritating at times, but after people got to know him, they respected his honesty. It had worked for him for 35 years, but he was beginning to question his strategy. "Oh honey," Emily murmured quietly, "we both love you and understand. I just wish you could be more involved with the family, but I know this is temporary." "It means so much to hear you say that," she smiled, and Lucas thought he saw tears in her eyes. Was she truly an excellent actress? "So, what does finishing early mean for you?" she said as she opened the food packages. "Well, first off, it means a nice bonus. I don't know the exact amount yet, but it's definitely not chump change. Plus, since this is our first government project, doing it so well should bring in more work for the company. My name being on the lead will get attention from headhunters in the government, and the bosses know this. So I should be able to negotiate some good perks, assuming everything goes smoothly," he told me. As he spoke, he attempted to eat his sweet and sour pork with chopsticks but gave up and used a fork. "Haven't I mentioned all this before?" he inquired through his mouthful. "Not that I remember, babe," Emily said. "All I recall is you saying you had a big contract you couldn't talk about, but it'd be worth it." "Well, it seems I haven't really talked to you since then," he remarked, looking regretful. "But it looks like he'll have my husband back soon." She grinned brightly. "Yeah, I hope so." "I missed you," she said, resting a hand on his arm. He gazed at her, eager to get more information. "So, what bar are you and the girls going to tomorrow night? Should I stop by after work to make sure everyone gets home safely?" he said, attempting to keep his tone light. "Oh, actually we're going to the Red Moon Saloon for some line dancing. I think we'll be done before you're off work," she added, her gaze fixed on her orange chicken. His heart fell somewhat further. At that point, Isabella completed her egg roll and requested him to tell her a tale. He cleared his plate, then grabbed her up and carried her into the living room. He spent the next hour reading tale after story until she fell asleep. He heard snoring from the sofa and saw Emily cuddled up with a book on her lap. He tenderly lifted up his daughter and carried her upstairs to her room, putting her in and holding back tears as he contemplated what was to come. He wanted Isabella to remember the happy evenings she spent with her parents rather than the difficult days that were ahead. After wiping away his tears, he came downstairs, kissed Emily tenderly on the lips and wrapped a blanket over her. Then, determined, he searched for her phone. He discovered it plugged in on the nightstand. Swiping to open it, he instantly discovered what he was searching for. Scrolling over her messages, he saw they started around 4 months ago. "Hey pretty lady, it was fun seeing you girls out dancing last night," a single text said. "Same here. Lucas works late on Thursdays and my in-laws watch the kids so we can have some girl time," she told me. "Your hubby is a good guy for letting you get out of the house now and then," he told you. "Yes, he is great," she said. For the following 2 weeks, their messages looked innocent enough. Then this interaction occurred. "Melissa gave me a lecture today about our lunch breaks. I was mad, but she had a point. I don't want people to get the wrong idea about us. Just harmless talking," Ryan had said. "We're not doing anything wrong." She inquired whether Lucas would be comfortable with the way they were behaved, which made her ponder. Maybe we're sending the wrong signals. Plus, I shouldn't be sharing all my problems with another guy. I'm going to try talking to Lucas. I get it, but if you can't get his attention, you know where to find me. I'll even buy you dinner if needed. Just as friends. Adam didn't recall Emily attempting to speak to him about anything, although it may have happened around the time he discovered they required food-grade stainless steel for the project. He had spent days searching down a supply, and Emily might have dropped a bomb on him without his knowledge. So far, Emily's messages seemed harmless, but Lucas realized Ryan was manipulating her. How could she not notice it? He scrolled to the next batch of texts. "You need to return those today," replied the guy. She responded with the smiling face emoji. "What are you talking about?" she inquired. "You know exactly what I mean," he said. "My friends are mad at me right now, and I don't blame them. If Lucas finds out how I've been acting, he might leave me," she said. "So you don't want me to show him the video?" he inquired, using another happy face emoji. "What video?" she inquired. "You can't let anyone at work see that. Josh was there and he recorded it on his phone," she added, frightened. "I'll make sure he deletes it, but you'll owe me," he cautioned, smiling again. "Fine. I can't lose Lucas, not after last night," she confessed. "Curious," he said, "what happened last night?" "That's none of your business," she said. "Was he mad you came home late and drunk?" he joked. "Hell no," she said. "Let's just say last night was incredible and it's because Lucas and I love each other. Now give me my underwear back and make sure that video gets erased," she told him. "Damn, that makes me sound so bad. Lucas deserves better than me," he said. "No, he's lucky to have you. He wasn't there to keep an eye on you. I don't need anyone watching me. Just be the friend you say you are and handle what I asked, please," she begged. "Of course, I'll help you and then you can buy me dinner," he said, smiling again. "Just make sure no one sees that video and I'll do whatever you want." She hesitantly agrees. A few days later, the communication continued. "I heard girls' night was cancelled. How about that dinner?" he wrote, smiling. "Not a good idea." "Sorry," she said. "Oh, come on," he insisted. "Your hubby will be at work and your friends are busy. One night out with a friend and we can talk like we used to. Besides, you owe me." "Fine. I'll meet you at the Red Moon Saloon at 8, the woman said. "Nope," he corrected, smiling. "Meet me at the Keg in the Crestview Grand Hotel. They have great drink specials and I don't want to yell over a bunch of drunks. I'll be getting a room in case we drink too much." "Fine," she agreed. "But this is just friends having dinner and I do owe you for making sure that video didn't get out. It's bad enough people at work heard about it. Don't worry about it. I watched Josh delete the video and soon someone else will do something scandalous and no one will remember. See you at 8, he told her. And there it was, the likely end of his marriage. How many times have you seen your wife agree to meet another guy in a hotel restaurant? How can this end well? She couldn't believe sex wasn't on the agenda. Lucas ended the messages and put the phone back into the charger. He undressed and went to bed alone. Sleep did not come easy. Saturday. Emily walked downstairs in her tiny black dress, which she usually wore on their outings. She seemed gorgeous. She paused as she saw him seated at the table. "Oh, Lucas, I didn't expect you to come home this early," she murmured, her voice quivering. She seemed pallid. "We need to talk, Emily," he stated calmly. "This is probably the most important conversation we'll ever have. Please sit down." She sat with horror on her face. She sought for his hand, as she normally did, but he yanked it away. "I know there's no girls' night. I know you've been seeing Brandon Mitchell behind my back," the man said. "Adam, please let me explain," she said, but he smashed his fist on the table, cutting her off. "Damn it, Emily, listen to me," he said, making her cringe. "You don't get to talk until I'm done." She shrank back, tears in her eyes. "As I was saying," he repeated, "I know you've been cozying up to Ryan at lunch. I know you've been dancing with him at the Red Moon Saloon. I know you took off your underwear and gave them to him after some dirty dancing. I know the only reason you jumped me 3 weeks ago was because you were worked up over him, and I know you plan to go on a date with him tonight at a hotel where your boyfriend has a room ready." He stopped, attempting to suppress his rage. "Emily, you lied to me by omission about Ryan. You lied by omission about your dancing without underwear, and you lied about going out with the girls. Honestly, I'm tired, and my trust in you is broken. I'm not even sure I want to work on this marriage anymore. Your actions make me feel like you don't care about this relationship either. So I'm giving you 3 options." He raised one finger. "Choice 1, you walk out that door and go see your boyfriend. Even if nothing happens tonight, this will end our marriage. 0 chance he'll want to fix it." He lifted his second finger. "Choice 2, you and I sit here all night, and you try to convince me to work on saving our marriage. You've got a hard sell, because I don't trust a word you say anymore, but you might be able to pull it off. I love you, and we have a child, so you've got about a 50% chance." Then he lifted his third finger. "If you haven't slept with or done anything sexual with him, I promise I'll be 100% committed to working on this, but if you have, this is the only option that might still give us a chance at repairing things. You take me to see your Romeo tonight, tell him in front of me that he will never contact or speak to you again, and then let me talk to him alone for at least 15 minutes. This choice will earn you the most respect and give us the best chance of fixing things." Emily looked like she was about to vomit, looking at him in terror. 0, 50, or 100%, Emily. What's it going to be? The question lingered in the air for almost a minute. She seemed to be straining to resist the temptation to puke before eventually meeting his eyes. "Lucas, I'm so sorry for everything, and I really need to talk to you. But in answer to your question, do you want to drive, or should I?" she said, her voice quiet but calm. It was unexpected. Lucas hadn't expected her to choose to face Ryan alongside him. He assumed she would attempt to remain and make excuses. This option gained her some points, but she was still in the red. "I'll drive," Lucas said quickly, snatching his keys and following her out to the vehicle. He opened the door for her out of habit, and she almost broke down again as they drove out of the driveway. She looked over at him. "I really messed us up, didn't I?" she questioned sadly. "Yes, Emily, you really did," Lucas said, his gaze fixed on the road. "What can I do to fix it?" she said, her voice shaking. He considered for a minute. "First, complete honesty from now on. I shouldn't have to say this, but apparently you think it's okay to leave out important things or lie to me. You'll also have to find a way to make me believe you, because I don't know how you're going to earn my trust back, and I'm not the one who broke it." She nodded, biting her lip as tears filled her eyes. "And another thing," Lucas went on, "if we stay together, Ryan is out of your life entirely. You don't talk to him at work. You don't ask how he's doing. If you see him at a bar, you leave. If you can't leave, you call me. No drinks, no gifts, nothing from him. Has gone." "Okay," she whispered. "When we get back, you're going to tell me everything. Even the things you think I don't want to hear. I've been wrapped up in this project, and I'll take some blame for that. If you have issues with me, you need to tell me. But no more hiding." Okay, she said, her voice barely audible. And one more thing, for now, we're going to marriage counseling. You can pick the counselor if you want. Hell, maybe Daniel can suggest someone, but it's not negotiable if we want any shot at making this work. Okay, she said, nodding. Her phone beeped with a text message. She gazed at it, and her face became pale again. It's him. He's asking where I am, she whispered gently. Lucas reached for the phone without saying anything. She gave it over. He scanned through the texts from earlier in the day. Hey, I got a room with a jacuzzi. Maybe after dinner, we can relax. Bring your bikini. You're not getting me drunk enough to go in a hot tub with you. I'm not bringing a bikini, she told me. Well, see. You know how you get when you're drunk. The most recent message, where are you? I've got a glass of wine waiting for you. Lucas replied back, running a little late. I got a surprise for you. The reaction was quick. You brought your bikini. Awesome. Lucas gave the phone back to Emily. She read the messages, then hung her head. You know this isn't helping, right? She said. Just from today's texts, it looks like you were planning to hook up with him tonight. How bad do you think it'll be if I scroll back further? Emily cried silently. Lucas, I swear I only planned to have dinner. I never planned to sleep with him. Did you intend to give him your underwear like you did a few weeks ago when you were drunk and dancing with him? He inquired, his words cutting like a dagger. She sobbed even more. We're almost there. You should probably fix your makeup and think about what you're going to say to Ryan, Lucas told you. Oh, and don't drink the wine. Emily swiftly lowered the visor and reached for a tissue from the glove box. She started applying her makeup, sniffling as she attempted to contain herself. With a calmer voice, she responded, Lucas, I get why you think Ryan was playing me. Hearing it from you makes me realize he probably was. But how didn't I see it? I know I've made bad decisions lately, but I'm not some naive girl. I've brushed off better-looking and more charming guys than Ryan. So why did he get to me? That's part of why I find it hard to trust anything you say, Emily. You're smart and beautiful. You should have recognized this for what it was. That's why I wonder if you went along with it willingly. I messed up, she murmured. I acted like a strumpet at a bar with him and lied about dinner tonight. No wonder you're angry and hurt. Her color seemed to recover, and her voice became stronger. Okay, I screwed up, and now I need to figure out how to fix it. Thank you for giving me this chance, she said, leaning in to kiss him, but he twisted his head, and her lips fell on his cheek. I'm far from over this. Not even close, Lucas stated coldly. She stared at him, wounded. They were generally affectionate, so his rejection wounded. What do you want me to say to him? She said, her voice shaking as they drove into the restaurant parking lot. Lucas switched the engine off and stared at her. His rage boiled over as he leaned in and stared at her with icy determination. What do I want you to say, Emily? Our relationship is hanging by a thread because of what you did with this loser. You've torn down a key part of our marriage. Our daughter could be spending Thanksgiving with you and Christmas with me. I want that to sink in. Then say whatever you need to. Emily sat quietly for a minute, taking deep breaths before opening the vehicle door. She paused briefly as they proceeded toward the keg at the Crestview Grand Hotel, nearly grabbing for his arm. Lucas didn't back away, but he didn't encourage her contact either. They entered the restaurant together, silently. A young hostess with auburn hair welcomed them. Welcome to the keg. Just the two of you? She inquired. Emily spoke before Lucas could. Actually, we're meeting someone. Ryan was already sitting. The hostess motioned toward the rear. Feel free to look around, she murmured, but Emily touched Lucas' arm and directed him to the corner where Ryan was seated. Lucas' brows tightened as they saw him fidgeting with his phone, unaware they were approaching. Emily moved forward, stopping at Ryan's table but without sitting down. Ryan glanced up and smiled, but it immediately faded as he saw Lucas standing behind her. His face clenched, and his eyes narrowed with mistrust. Emily, she said with a slight shiver, this is my husband, Lucas Morgan. He has concerns about our relationship, and after talking to him, I agree. For the first time in our marriage, I've given him a reason to doubt me, and I'm going to work to fix what I've damaged. From now on, I want nothing to do with you. Don't call, text, or try to contact me in any way. I take full responsibility for letting things go this far, but I'm ending it here. Ryan sat quietly, his face taut, while Emily proceeded. My husband knows about what happened at the Red Moon Saloon, and tomorrow, I'm reporting this to HR. Any attempt to contact me outside of work will be considered maltreatment. Now, I'm going to sit at the bar while my husband talks to you. Before Lucas could react, Emily moved in and kissed him hard on the lips. Her eyes were begging as she muttered, "I'm very sorry." Then she turned and proceeded towards the bar. Lucas sat across from Ryan, who shuffled nervously, attempting to maintain his calm. Lucas could detect the tension underneath. So, in a calm, quiet voice, he said, "You were expecting a nice dinner with my wife, maybe something extra afterward, huh?" Ryan leaned back, pretending to smile. "I guess she didn't tell you everything," he said, attempting to restore control. Lucas grinned faintly and unshaken. "She told me enough. And you thought tonight's surprise would be her in a bikini, right?" Ryan's smirk slipped slightly, but he swiftly sought to recover. "You really think she's told you everything, man?" he said, attempting to project confidence. Lucas did not flinch. "Yeah, I do. I've known her for 11 years and been married for 8. I know her a lot better than some guy who's been sniffing around for a few months." Ryan laughed, attempting to provoke him. "She gives a hell of a head," he said, grinning again. Lucas' face remained calm, but his voice became firm and deadly as he leaned in slightly. "You want to show me proof? If you had anything real, you wouldn't have needed to spike her drink." Ryan's smirk disappeared entirely. He moved in his seat, his gaze drawn to the glass of wine on the table, the one had purchased for Emily. Lucas noticed and continued pushing. "Yeah, I saw that," Lucas said. "What was the plan? GHB? Rohypnol? Or just some good old magic pills?" Ryan's face paled as he leaned back, visibly terrified. Lucas had struck a nerve. "You little piece of trash," Lucas growled, moving in closer. "I should knock you to a pulp right now, but I'm not sure I wouldn't eliminate you, and I have better things to do than go to jail for someone like you." Ryan remained mute, his confidence utterly broken. "I'm giving you 3 options," Lucas said, lifting one finger. "Option 1, you apologize to my wife, quit your job tomorrow, and leave town. Do that, and I won't come after you." He raised another finger. "Option 2, you walk into the police station and confess to drugging my wife's drink. Do your time, and when you get out, leave town. I'll keep an eye on you, but I won't come after you." Lucas lifted his third finger. "Option 3, we meet in a boxing ring in 4 weeks. Sign injury waivers and neither of us leaves until one of us is unconscious. Then you leave town." Ryan blinked, his eyes expanding. "You're insane," he spat, recovering some of his confidence. "Why would I agree to any of that?" Lucas leaned back and took a long swallow of the scotch he'd just ordered. "Because every time you step outside at night, go to your car, or open your door, you'll wonder if I'm there waiting. And when I'm not, you'll wonder if one of my friends is. You'll never know when it's coming, but trust me, it will. Knees, bats, you get the idea." Ryan shuffled uneasily, the smugness leaving his face. "You wouldn't do that," he mumbled, hoping to recover his composure. "You're just a teddy bear. Your wife said so after I screwed her." Lucas' calm attitude disappeared. To emphasize his point, he reached across the table, grabbed Ryan's collar, and dragged him forward. It wasn't pushy, but it was enough to pique his interest. "You son of a bitch," Lucas hissed. Ryan shouted and clutched his nose. "I'm calling the cops." "Go ahead," Lucas hissed. "I'd love for them to test that wine glass for pills and hear the recording I've got of you admitting your plan." Ryan's face became ashen. The cops were on the scene within minutes. 2 state troopers who had been dining across the street entered to investigate. Lucas made a statement and they bagged the wine glass as evidence. A check of Ryan's pockets revealed a little sachet of white powder. When questioned, Ryan requested a lawyer and shut up. It was about 4 a.m. After making her statement, Lucas and Emily departed the police station. Emily spent 15 minutes listening to one of the cops describe how fortunate she was that Lucas interfered. By the time they departed, she was a disaster. Ryan remained in prison. Using Emily's phone, they phoned Lucas' parents and briefly explained the issue. His parents were accommodating and agreed to care for Isabella for the day, including a trip to the zoo to keep her amused. When they eventually arrived to the garage, Lucas and Emily sat silently for a time. Emily undid her seatbelt and reached across the console, holding Lucas fiercely. He allowed her to weep on his shoulder for a time before gently pulling her back. "Emily," he whispered, "we still need to talk, but it's late, and we need some sleep. Tomorrow, we'll call into work and figure out where we go from here. Sound like a plan?" She swiftly nodded, wiping away tears. "Yes, Lucas. Bed sounds wonderful. Can I please sleep in the bed with you?" she pleaded, her voice cracking. Lucas gazed at her from within. "Of course, baby." He awoke the following morning, spooned up close to his wife, reflecting on all that had transpired. He began to believe that everything may be well. However, he needed to have some difficult discussions before committing to anything. They went out to breakfast at Morning Glory Cafe and spoke about Isabella and the pleasure she was probably having with Lucas' parents. They kept everything light and simple. After a last cup of coffee, they settled the bill and returned home. Lucas sat down at the kitchen table, glanced at Emily, and decided to get started. "Okay, I'll go first," he said. "I think you can see what kind of person Ryan is now, so I'm not going to knock that dead horse. But he said you gave him a good head and that you called me a teddy bear after sleeping with him. Is any of that true?" "No," she said hastily. "The worst thing I did with him was that night at the Red Moon Saloon. I know what I did was terrible, but nothing else happened beyond that. How can I trust you on that?" he said, his displeasure palpable. "You lied about seeing him last night. You left out what happened at the bar, and you hid your relationship with him. I've been thinking about how to earn back your trust, and I have an idea." "What about a polygraph test?" she said. "A polygraph test?" Lucas had to grin slightly. "You mean a lie detector test?" She nodded. "Make an appointment and ask me whatever you need to. Just tell me the time and place." She spoke with such sincerity that he nearly smiled. He knew polygraph tests were not completely dependable, but he would feel better if she passed. "I'll see what I can do. It might take some time to set up, but that's actually a good idea," he said, surprised she had thought of it. She grinned faintly. "Okay, that's a good start. And we can revisit the details of your affair later, but here's the big question, the one that hurts the most and affects our relationship the most: how do we move forward? I get that you were ashamed and didn't tell me about the panty incident. I don't like it, but I can understand it. It's harder for me to accept how close you got with another guy without telling me, but if you thought it was just a work friendship, I can see that too. I'm not blaming you or your work. I understand why you took on this project and why it was important to you, but I'm just telling you how I felt." I began to feel down, and he started filling that gap. He asked about my day, about our kid, about things I liked. Our conversations were about me, and it made me feel special. She stopped, looking at my face. I did not respond. When Samantha called me out on how it looked at lunch, I realized what I had been doing. I was using Ryan to get what I wasn't getting from you, so I called things off. At the time, I thought he was just being a friend, but I was trying to fix things with you," she interrupted. "That night, things got out of hand. I didn't invite him or his friends. I showed up early and they arrived before the other girls. Ryan bought drinks for everyone, including me. I ended up getting drunker than I've been in years. I did some really stupid and shameful things, which you already know about. But afterward, we had amazing sex, and that confused me even more. How could I act like a mess and still have such a great night with you?" She stood up, fetched a glass of water, drank half of it, and sat back down. "After that, it was all about damage control. I knew you'd be furious if you found out what I'd done, and you'd be right to be. If you had kissed another woman at a bar while drunk, I'd be livid. It didn't help that we had such a great night afterward, so I made another mistake. I tried to use Ryan to cover it up, and he made sure I knew he was helping. Then I owed him a favor and he wanted to take me out. She wasn't weeping, but tears were flowing down her cheeks. "Oh hell," I mumbled, getting up to embrace her. I kissed her passionately before pulling back. "We're not there yet. This is going to take some time, but if you're 100% in, so am I." Emily and I went to therapy for a time and it really helped me work through my problems. The most important thing I learned was that just because communication was excellent when we first met did not imply we couldn't improve it further. Emily should also have her hormones evaluated, according to the counselor. 32 is a little young for that, but it is not unheard of. After a few tests and an adjustment in her birth control, she felt much better. I can't say we're back where we were, but we're in a better position. The polygraph test confirmed she was speaking the truth regarding the difficult questions I posed. I still have a nagging doubt regarding the correctness of the exams, but I can deal with it. I also signed up for boxing lessons, while Emily enrolled in self-defense courses at the same gym. Saturday Ladies by Night evolved into Saturday Girls Self-Defense Night. Emily eventually registered us for martial arts courses together. She's a natural and I'm just trying to keep up. Sparring has developed into some of the finest foreplay we've had. My project was completed 6 weeks ahead of time and within budget. The firm is now vying with the larger companies for federal contracts. They attempted to elevate me to vice president, but it required too much travel, so I declined. Instead, I established a special projects section, complete with a new office and executive assistant. My new executive assistant has a fantastic grin and a stunning rear. So far, no one has objected that I work alongside my wife. I don't believe anybody will care as long as we are profitable. The majority of my $36,000 bonus from that assignment went into Isabella's education fund, but I set aside some for a week at an all-inclusive resort with Emily. When we returned, my parents were eager to return our daughter to us. I did get a misdemeanor assault charge for hitting Ryan, which was the greatest $300 and 40 hours of community service I'd ever spent. Ryan received a 3 to 5 year sentence for attempted assault and pill possession. The white stuff was GHB. He also was knocked unconscious one night while heading to his vehicle. No, it wasn't me. Ryan apparently did this pilling act previously and one of his brother-in-laws caught up with him. That individual received a 2 to 3 year sentence for criminal assault. I deposited $50 per month into his commissary account. Emily and I worked hard to restore the trust that had been broken, and although it hasn't been easy, we've made substantial progress. Our relationship is now stronger because we are both determined to make it work, openly speaking and ensuring that there is no more distance between us. Therapy has become a regular part of our life, and we've established a new routine that works for both of us. I can't claim that my fear is fully gone, but I have learned to trust again. Life is not flawless, but it seems more true and grounded. We both understand that sustaining a relationship requires work, and we are now giving it the attention it needs. Every morning, I wake up next to the woman I love, knowing that we've both made errors, but also that we choose each other every day. That, above all things, gives me hope for the future. At the end of the day, love may be messy, but the battle to remain together demonstrates its power. Thank you for watching. Do you believe Lucas and Emily's marriage can be completely healed? Please share your ideas in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for future tales.